Hey, what's going on, everybody? So in today's video, I thought we'd take a look at some of these Browns players, specifically Nick Chubb, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry. I'm just going to give you my opinions on them from the stats and other things that I've looked at, sort of their offensive situation and all that's sort of going on there. But if you guys are new to this channel, welcome. My name is Luke Beller, and on this channel, I mostly post about fantasy football. So if you're into that, feel free to subscribe down below. So when we look at this Browns offense, last year there was so much hype around this team. People had like such high expectations for them with Baker Mayfield coming off a somewhat solid year, and Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb, like all these guys. And so I think all these guys were super hyped up, and obviously they didn't really live up to the hype. Nick Chubb still did pretty well, and Jarvis Landry did pretty well, but especially Odell Beckham was a big letdown last season. I think he was being drafted as like the 6th wide receiver last year, and he finished around like 25th. So obviously people who picked him weren't too happy because he didn't live up to sort of the expectations that people had for him that season, and Baker Mayfield as well. He was sort of picked as like a higher quarterback. He ended up pretty far down below as well. But I honestly think that this season, I believe that they're going to improve, and they might be a little undervalued right now with sort of where they're going in drafts, because people just remember last season where they were pretty bad. But I think there's some reasons to expect them to sort of maybe take a step up this season. So if we take a look at Nick Chubb, last season he finished as the running back 8 in PPR and 6th in standard. So if we look at his stats, he ran the ball 298 times for 1,494 yards, 8 touchdowns. Then he had 36 receptions for 278 yards. So last year, Nick Chubb was obviously a great fantasy option at running back position, and he was one of the bright spots on this Brown team. And I think that in this upcoming 2020 season, he's going to sort of repeat similar numbers to last year. Right now, he's going around like 8th to 9th in running backs if you look at like the average draft position. So it sort of makes sense considering how well he performed last season to where he'll sort of be this season. But one interesting statistic to sort of look at is last season, Kareem Hunt was out for like the first 8 games because he was suspended. And then once he came back, Nick Chubb's stats did go down, mostly in the passing game. And if we look at like the splits for when Kareem Hunt was playing and when he wasn't playing, so without Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb averaged about 20.4 fantasy points per game in PPR, and he had a target share, so receiving the ball, 11.8% target share. And then with Kareem Hunt on this team, when he was on the field or playing in the game, he averaged 14.4 PPR points per game and only a 6.8% target share. So looking at that stat, it sort of shows that when Kareem Hunt is active, he does take away from Nick Chubb, and so that could be a problem this upcoming season. That will sort of limit, I think, Nick Chubb's upside. I think he's going to be one of the best backs in the league, probably the top 10, sort of where he's being drafted right now. But with Kareem Hunt being on this offense, it's sort of just going to limit him a little bit on that upside factor, because he's going to take some of his carries, some of his pass attempts, and for Nick Chubb owners, it would be better if he wasn't on the team, because last year he obviously put up more points when Kareem Hunt wasn't there. But that's just sort of something that I think is important to take a look at and sort of know in this upcoming fantasy season. But no question, I think Nick Chubb will still be a great running back in this upcoming season. And then if we take a look at Kareem Hunt, he's more of like a lower option. Not obviously you're not going to want to start him all the time, but he's more of like a RB3, RB4 sort of flex option. Last year he averaged about 10 touches per game and 58 yards per game, so not much. And then if we sort of take a look at some of these, the Browns receiving core, of course we have Odell Beckham, I already mentioned earlier. He was expected to do very well last season. Was average draft pick was around 6, finished around the 24 range, so not very good. I think this season Odell's going to be better than he was last season. Because last season it came out that he was experiencing like a groin injury and another kind of injury throughout most of the season, and he said that he had pain pretty much in most games. So I think that hopefully that will be healed up, so he'll be a little bit better. They brought in a new coach, Kevin Stefanski. He was on the Vikings before this, and so I expect him to sort of bring some new blood to this team, sort of allow them to forget what they did last season and sort of improve to where people sort of expect them to be. And if you think about it, this upcoming season, they're a lot more, people don't expect, they're not as hyped up as they were the season before. So I think that they'll do better this season because they don't have as much pressure on themselves. And so if we take a look at Odell, last season he finished with 74 receptions, 1,035 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And those 4 touchdowns were the least amount in a season in his career when he's, been healthy throughout the entire season. And so I really expect him to improve on that those 4 touchdowns last season. I think he'll probably be up a little higher, 8 to 10 range possibly. but I expect Odell to be better in that area. And right now, if you sort of look at that ADP for Odell, he's been picked in like the 11 to 15 receiver range, so maybe like around the 3rd round. So I think that that's probably a solid value for him, because I still think there are some question marks around him because he does get injured a lot. And so that's sort of a worry as well. And, you know, with Baker Mayfield, he's not the best quarterback in the league, as we sort of saw last year. But I still think that he could be a good wide receiver. He definitely could, you know, perform, you know, better than he did last season. But I do think he still could be a good option in this upcoming season. So when we take a look at Jarvis Landry, he finished last season around like the PPR 13 wide receiver. And in all 6 of his seasons, he's finished with at least 80 catches each season. And so I think the fact that, you know, he's very consistent, he's sort of a guy you can rely on more. He's going to get the ball. He's more of like a possession receiver. And it's interesting because I think last season people expected Odell to be much better than Jarvis Landry, but Jarvis Landry finished pretty good amount ahead of Odell. So I think that Jarvis Landry could be a good pick. I would sort of say that I think his ceiling might not be as high as Odell's, because obviously, as we've seen in the past, Odell can be, you know, one of the best receivers in the NFL. I don't think Jarvis Landry has the potential to get to that upside, but I think his floor is sort of higher, and there's sort of more certainty when you sort of look at him and how he plays. And last season, Jarvis Landry finished with 83 receptions for 1,174 yards and 6 touchdowns, which is pretty solid. And right now he's going around 25 to 30 ADP. So I think that he's a good value, especially in PPR leagues, because he is so consistent at catching the ball. But that's sort of an overview of my opinion on those 3 players on the Browns offense in this upcoming season. So that's going to be all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you got any value from this, I'd love if you'd like a video down below. But that's going to be all for this one, and I'll see you guys on the next one.